Hello, everyone. My name is Lalit Singh, and I'm VP of Enterprise Architecture and Platform Services at Mercator. So before I continue further, I would like to thank Brian, Dave, and everybody at IATA who actually came up with the notion of NDC, because I see this as a paradigm shift. When I think about it, it's very similar to the locomotive engines with coal and steam, and then the diesel. There was a big shift in paradigm. NDC, I believe, is going to do that. A little bit about Mercator. For anyone that does not know, we used to be part of Emirates. Now we are a privately owned company, independent company. Emirates still has 20% equity, but the 80% is owned by Warburg Pincus, a very strong private equity firm. So we have the money, we have the Emirates DNA and the pedigree, and now we are going to take it to the next level. So what really is the next level? Well, the next level is to enable travel commerce, make it really simple, cost-effective for airlines and other travel providers to provide goods and services to a passenger and others in the value chain. So let's get into the details now. Oops.
Forward, green.
Okay. So as I said, NDC is a huge paradigm shift. It simplifies a lot of processes. It allows you to use modern technologies to do a much better job of airline travel and beyond. This is what the current ticketing or the process flow looks like. You have a traveler, agent, a typical GDS, airline. You have the revenue accounting and the financials. I'm not going to get into the details because I think the previous speakers have covered it in infinite details. So today, we know how revenue accounting works. You have the traditional processing. I think, again, this has been discussed, so we'll not get into the details. Most of you are familiar with this. What happens today is, because of the process flow and the way revenue is accounted for, there is a degree of complexity, and you have to do things like proration, credit card reconciliation, and integrity checks. Now, I think as the speakers before me have pointed out, when you go to an NDC model, you are starting to get closer to a e-commerce or a travel commerce, as I call it, and we at Mercator are actually focused on that. You are getting closer and closer to a travel commerce. You have the passenger, the travel agent, talking to either a modified GDS or an aggregator that then talks to either a legacy PSS, because NDC is not going to be implemented in a short period. It'll take some time. Or you have the participating offer airline and the offer responsible airline and so on. And then behind that, you have the back office systems. So what's the impact? I think to summarize it, and I think others have discussed it, so again, we'll not repeat the same thing. One is simplicity. The other is better productivity and effectiveness. As an airline, you get a lot more effectiveness. You can bring a product to market a lot faster. You can do interlining a lot better than what it takes today. In a nutshell, again, I think the previous speakers have talked about it, so we'll not get into that. My focus is to show you what Mercator is doing about it and how we are trying to achieve this. So revenue accounting gets immensely simplified. You get a lot more data, and we'll talk about that. One mantra going forward that I think we are following is every airline, in order to be successful, you have to know the traveler, so you can personalize the products and services you're offering to them. And that's where you differentiate. It's a big differentiator. And our goal is to enable that. You get, I think as we discussed, proration gets simplified, you get interline that gets simplified, and so on and so forth. One other thing that we're looking at is NDC provides you an opportunity to do something called predictive analytics, or analytics in general, but more specifically, predictive analytics. Mercator is working with one of our partners, which also happens to be a Warburg company. They have 250 data scientists. And this is the same group that also was initially responsible for the CERN project in Geneva to find the God particle. I think most of you are familiar with that. So a big emphasis is on predictive analytics. And the reason for that is you want to know the traveler. You want to know what the traveler likes, what the traveler does not like, what are their preferences, where they're going next. And you can actually predict a lot of that with the data you collect using NDC because you're getting more rich data. So how do we do this? It's all good. We all can stand here and say, yes, we will do NDC. We will support it. But there's a bigger picture. NDC is the paradigm shift, but how do you leverage that? So the core is, at the center of all this is data. And I think one order takes it a notch further, where you have one transaction that shows you multiple views of the traveler's experience or ticket. You have the price, and you have various aspects, views of the data. So we are focusing a lot. We are actually rebuilding our architecture stack to focus on data. That is going to be the next big thing. So how do we leverage the data? We have, well, data analytics, as I mentioned earlier. We're investing heavily in that. Every project, it's not just the airline industry, across any industry, if you're a big entity, when you're doing integration, it could be mergers and acquisitions, it could be just a regular partner-to-partner integration, you spend 25 to 30% of your effort integration. We have decided to solve that puzzle for good. And that's based on learnings from other industries that some of us have worked in. We are going to solve that, because that's going to be a big aspect. Workflow. So you're an airline, you buy 5 different products from 5 different vendors. And then you're stuck with, well, how do I integrate this? There is no good way of integrating that, and that takes a life of its own. It takes 2 years, 3 years to get everything integrated. Well, we want to solve that. And that's going to enable NDC, because the way we solve it is you do an automated workflow engine that can allow you to tie all the different products together and automate your enterprise workflows. So you don't have human operators copying data from one place to the other, doing batch jobs every hour, every night, whatever be the case, and then do that. You stream a lot of the data. Then web services. One big item that we are focusing that's going to be a big differentiator is microservices. You create small enough services, and that's the direction the IT industry at large is going to. You do microservices, you use workflow to tie it together, and then we have all the other services around that. So you have BPM services. There's something called health check, where we actually take that and say, how good is your implementation? We are doing mobility, end-to-end technology solutions. And again, the goal is to take NDC, leverage that, and take it to the next level. So what does the stack look like? Now, this is not just vaporware. I want everybody to understand that when Brian asked the question, do you believe in NDC? We not only believe, we are actually willing to put the money where the mouth is, because we are investing in that. We have a detailed design for that. So your big item is going to be the integration layer, as I mentioned earlier. If you do not have the integration layer, then you'll be struggling, because not every airline is going to go to NDC in one big jump. It's going to be a gradual process of 2 to 3 years, maybe 4 years. So if you're an airline, you want to do an interline with somebody who's not NDC compliant, how do you do that? Well, you need integration for the transition period. On top of that, we can support multiple databases, everything from Postgres to Oracle to NoSQL. We are investing heavily, again, in master and reference data management. And then on top of that layer, you have microservices. Now, here's the beauty. It's not like we're throwing everything and then start from scratch. That would be suicide. So we take the legacy services and wrap them as microservices and leverage every bit of code. But every new investment, you actually do it the right way. We are building a distributed bus on top of that. We don't probably want to get into details, but what it gives you as a customer or every airline is the ability to customize the platform to your unique needs. It's no longer a product where it's like you go to a ready-made store and you get what you get, and then if it's not your size, you deal with that. This is a case where you can customize it to your unique needs as an airline. And then on top of that, you have the gateway layer, which is going to support various protocols. Every protocol that the industry needs, whether it's SOAP, REST, JMS, so on and so forth, allows you to connect to various systems. And finally, you have the top layer, which is the web UI. Now, on the right-hand side, you have the common services, where mobility, again, I want to emphasize that, is going to be a big factor. Where you can do NDC. NDC is great, but then to take NDC to the next level, you need mobility, you need analytics, you need flexible services, and that's what we are trying to do. And finally, business intelligence, as we all know, is a key part of the component. With that, I want to thank everybody who's here. NDC is the beginning. I think IATA is talking about one order. That's where you start seeing the value. And I think in the previous meeting I asked a question about travel commerce. If I was part of an airline, that's what I would be pushing is, let's enable travel commerce. Thank you.